Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream where we need to talk a little bit about Leeds United's match this weekend against Tottenham Hotspur because I've got something quite interesting that I've noticed that I think kind of needs to be covered. Because a lot of people will look at Leeds United's chances this weekend and they will go, it's not exactly going to go well. Spurs, Champions League side, currently, I think, fourth in the table, maybe? They're in that sort of area. Obviously, that doesn't add up to Leeds being in the best of positions. However, I think there's a little bit of data that potentially lines up in Leeds United's direction and is something that we can look to take advantage of, if not this weekend, then going forward, because there's a few ways that I think this club will take clubs by surprise. Hello, by the way, Mr. Paul Brody, Michael Gott, Mark Rankin. Hello, everybody. Pop a hi in the chat if you're around. That'd be massively appreciated. And let's get into everything. But first off, how is everyone? I hope we're all doing very, very well. For me, I'm a little bit on the tired side, so I don't know how long this stream will be, but long enough to get the idea across is the idea, and is the idea. There we go. And we'll see how we're all doing. Hello, Luke and Robert. Spurs are great because look, they dealt with Wolves. Yeah, but to be fair, everyone's going to have their off days. However, the thing that we need to discuss, hello, Alexandra, is around the way that Leeds United attack. Now, lots of people have looked at Daniel Farke's squad selection in recent weeks and they've gone, this is very clearly not something that makes sense to me. Because if we're going to try and play attacking stuff, then why are we playing Brendan Aaronson? Because he's not that great at the passing, he's not that great at the shooting, all this kind of stuff. He's not the pure number 10, and he's not been known to be a right winger. And this is fair enough. This is a completely fair critique of him because, like, understandable. He's not traditionally played in that role quite a lot. However, there is one statistic that I'm going to bring up that will potentially change some people's minds and go, okay, he does have a very, very valuable contribution to this team and is a big part of the way that the team attacks. So, there's a statistic that I think hopefully as many people as possible will be aware of, but if you're not, I will make you aware of it now. It's shot creating actions. So, in the 2 actions before a shot is created, it's about categorizing what those are and ultimately who does them and what sort of threat you are getting from the team that you are playing against. So, for example, shot creating actions can fall under, let's have a look, live ball passes. So, if like open play a through ball, then that is a shot creating action from a pass. Dead balls, obviously, take-ons, so if you beat a defender and then you play the ball into someone else who takes the shot, that's your shot-creating action. Very nice. Drawing a foul can be one. Having a shot can be one, because if you take a shot, it deflects, someone else takes a shot, you have created a shot with your shot. Getting fouled is another big one, and is one that we do not very well, but that's fine. But there is one that doesn't seem to be covered all too often, and that is defensive actions that lead to a shot for your team. And as a general rule of thumb, the higher your defensive actions leading to a shot, the better your team is at pressing in those high and dangerous areas, because you've forced the opposing defence into making mistakes, and if you can force them to make mistakes, then you're in the best possible position to sort of take advantage, score goals in those high areas, because at the end of the day, if you win the ball 20 yards out, you've got a shot from 20 yards, as opposed to winning the ball 60 yards back, in which case you've got to ticky-tacky your way through the other team. This is the Premier League organised by shot-creating actions from defensive situations. And whilst a lot of people might be like, okay, we play a bit of a pressing game, but I can't imagine we do that well, quite the opposite. Leeds United are the very, very top of this table, with 8 defensive actions that we've taken leading to shots this season so far within 6 matches, which is a really, really high rate and is showing that, like, at least once per match and about 1.5 times per match-ish, like realistically 1 1/3, but whatever, we're getting shots from situations where we're winning the ball in those dangerous areas, which is vastly better than any other side. And for me is what I consider to be our secret weapon in this situation, because a lot of sides will look at the promoted teams, will look at a Sunderland or a Burnley. Example, Burnley down here. Not a single shot created from a defensive action. And think that that is a team that is, by default, going to do the passive stuff and is just going to let you play football against them. And this goes quite the opposite of what Michael Cotter said, that we sat back and let Bournemouth play on Saturday. Because we didn't. Because we pressed them quite a lot, and that forced quite a lot of shots in our favour, which was a hell of a thing to do. And a lot of teams will see, like, newly promoted side, they're not necessarily going to want to play that good against us, they're not going to try and take the game to us. This sort of proves the opposite. And it proves to me that there is a hell of a lot of value in someone like a Brendan Aaronson. Because the way that Brendan Aaronson adjusts our sort of attacking shape and structure is more off the ball than on the ball. So if someone is faffing the ball about from left back to centre back to left back to defensive midfielder on the left hand side, having someone that is quick and nippy to zip in there, win the ball, like Brendan Aaronson has a tendency to, and play a ball to Calvert-Lewin, as Brendan Aaronson is increasingly getting good at, like including an overhead kick in the last match, which was absolutely fantastic, the more threat we're going to cause to these teams. And I think if we're able to do that without getting caught out, and in those sort of attacking high areas, because again, if we win the ball in those areas and then we proceed to lose it, that's not that big of an issue. Because if I flip it, and I take opposing stats on this one, so this is the number of times your opponents do the same thing against you. There has been a single shot created from a defensive action against us. So that is showing that in terms of territory, we are being incredibly dominant against the majority of teams that we're playing against. Because it's a case of, okay, we win the ball in high areas, but if we give the ball away, it's also going to be in those areas. We're very good at looking after possession, and if we lose it, it's not somewhere dangerous. We, in terms of where we're actually bad at conceding shots, we're about average for sort of live play. A little bit worse than average for set pieces. For take-ons, sure, okay, we're having a little bit of a problem on that one. From shots, we're dealing with that really, really well. Because, in essence, we're very, very, very good at blocking shots and getting them clear, which is nice to see. We do commit fouls in dangerous areas, which isn't something that is helping us. We've led to 9 shots against ourselves from fouls, which is as many as anyone else in the league, including Liverpool. And in terms of goals conceded from that, 2 of those, which is a little bit dangerous and isn't great. But I think this is sort of showing that sort of secret edge that we've got that a lot of teams won't believe that Leeds United have in their locker, which is effectively, we know how to press sides, we know how to cause them problems, we know how to make them uncomfortable in possession. This is how we will do so. And if we're able to bring that out against Spurs, then I think we're going to be looking very, very nice. And I hope that Harry Gray is fit for that one, because it'd be nice to see Harry and Archie on the same pitch, even if it's on other sides. That'd be quite good. On that, Andy, what's the secret weapon Leeds enabling opponents to score late goals? At the end of the day, that's going to happen sometimes. And it's not the biggest of issues either. Like, at the end of the day, one of those you can put down to having some of the worst luck on the planet. Gudmundsson. And the other of those, fair enough, fine, whatever, we've dropped a couple of points there. But it's hardly like an ongoing trend that we need to immediately go, let's fix it. Harry isn't injured. Harry was mentioned as a doubt. So I'm not ruling it out yet. I know what you mean, Rich, but I'm not ruling it out. James, up till the end of November. I did see that was 4 to 6 weeks was what Daniel Farke said, which is probably the end of the next international break, if I'm guessing right. And he'd take a bit of time in team training and all that kind of stuff. I do think it will be the same team. Hello, Leeds Bros. Happy to see you about. But that was the sort of general gist of this is a tactical little advantage that I feel like we don't always lean on quite as much as we necessarily should be. Because if we were leaning on it quite as much as I feel like we should be, then we'd be causing a lot more teams a lot more problems, and that would put us in a significantly better situation. I don't... Sly, that is a wild shout, by the way. Why does Metcha have to start? If you can give me a couple of reasons as to why Metcha has to start, then we can have that conversation. But I think just to immediately swing in and be like, yeah, we need the guy that doesn't do tons. I don't know. I'm not super convinced. Because I'm going to take a little bit of a dip into the data. Because the thing with Calvert-Lewin is, admittedly, sure, shooting hasn't been perfect. His finishing isn't as on point as we would necessarily want it to be. But there's a pretty big but. He's getting in the position for those chances in the same way that you don't necessarily see Mecha. Better hold-up play, which will help release pressure. Sure, but he's not on the end of chances the other way around. Mecha is, and this is a silly term to use, Mecha is more of a defensive forward. So he's more, get the ball, hold it, let other people come up around you, whereas Calvert-Lewin is the sort of player that is on the end of moves, as we've seen repeatedly so far. And admittedly, sure, he's maybe not scored as many as we would have necessarily liked. But I've not got that big of an issue with it, because he's at least getting those opportunities for me. How many squad players do Spurs have in relation to Leeds? So they've got the same 25-man squad that we have in terms of what you're allowed by the Premier League. However, that is somewhat expanded by the fact that they've got sort of deeper youth depths to plunder. So if I have a look at their squad, because across all competitions they've named 31 players in their squad so far, between Champions League and Premier League. But that does include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players that are under the age of 21, which means that they're able to sort of work around that. We're not playing to win, we're playing for the draw. I think we're playing for the best result we can possibly get. Like, I don't see any benefit in saying that we're not playing to win this match, because if you go in with that approach, then you're going to go in with the approach of let's just not score, shall we? Let's go into it and we'll hope for a 0-0, and that's the perfect kind of result for us. But if you do that, you invite even more pressure on yourself, and you cause significant issues if they score a goal, because in that situation you've got Mecha on the pitch, who is the guy that doesn't get on the end of moves, because Mecha, good player, like without a doubt. But in terms of if you've got 2 or 3 chances in a match, I'm having Calvert-Lewin over Mecha 9 out of 10 times. So I think to instead go with Mecha is sort of tacitly saying, no, okay, we're just not going to win this game, so Spurs have at it, and if you score a goal, then we'll roll over and you can have it. And I don't think that's the best approach for us to take here. I think the best approach for us to take is, we're at home, we've not lost at home for over a year, let's keep that record up, shall we? And the way that you keep that record up is you play positively and you try and actually get a result. And I think we will. I think that's what we have to do here. I'm not entirely sure, and this is a weird one, if Archie Gray will start. He started once so far this season in the league, which was, let's have a look. Against Burnley, in which he got 70 minutes in the first week of the season. Since then, he played 2 minutes against Brighton, and then 90 against Doncaster, 9 against Bodo Glimt. Which ain't awful, but I imagine like pulling him out here would be pretty fun. Did I hear DCL stats correctly? He wins 90% of 50-50 challenges. I don't know, I'd have to check. That's going to be a job for SofaScore rather than FBref though, which I can do. Calvert-Lewin. Right, where are you at, DCL? So in terms of total duels, he's won 41% of his duels. And it's the same 41% for ground and 41% for aerial. Which, I don't know why he'd heard 90%, but either way. That'd be wild if it was that. That'd just be an unstoppable forward. The rest of his info is 25 touches a match, is pretty damn solid. Nearly gets a key pass every single game, but then again, that's not really his job. DCL good at running off defender shoulders into space. He can also hold it up and knock out a ball. I saw that first on Saturday. Yeah, I think he causes that threat in a different way to Mecha does, and I think that form of threat is better suited to this system. Because by your very nature as a forward in this system, you're gonna need to do things a little bit more independently. And I think if you're a hold-up player, you're automatically inviting that pressure from the other side. And yeah, sure, if your team get up with you and provide that support, then that's fantastic and that covers everything. But that doesn't necessarily always happen. So isn't something that I think we can necessarily rely on when it comes to Mecha. Don't see Solomon in many squads for Spurs. That's because he's not currently at Spurs. He's gone to Villarreal. That would explain why. You don't see him in Spurs squads because he isn't there. Misses a lot of chances. Let's have a look at his XG. So he scored one, which is fair enough, and his XG is 1.19. So I think to say that he should have scored more is a little bit harsh, because some of the chances that he's getting aren't quite as clear-cut as maybe we're approaching them. I think he will start putting those chances away. Hold on. Haley says, I'd love DCL to put more chances away, but this idea we're in trouble if he doesn't score. I don't think he'll pan out. 6 goals scored, 6 scorers so far. Yeah, I don't mind sharing the goals either. Like last season, we were all screaming, some midfielders need to start scoring goals. Yeah, and now they are. And we're in that same situation where the midfielders are scoring the goals and people are still kind of like, our forward isn't scoring the goals. And it's like, it's fine, we're okay. We scored 5 in the last 2. We're okay. We don't see Yeboah in our matchday squads anymore either. And it's wild, isn't it? How Yeboah's not part of Leeds United's matchday squads. You'd expect it, but no. If Bamford missed them, he always got moaned at. Not by me, to be fair. If we're using Patrick Bamford as an example, you are sort of talking to the Bamford Defence League right now. So you'll have seen none of that from me because that wasn't my vibe. Because I'm protective of our Lord Bamford because sometimes he needs it. Okay, and that's fine. He missed 3 good chances against Wednesday and Bournemouth. 3. He could have done better, but to be fair, one of them was a cracking save from Petrovic. I don't think you could necessarily see any chance that a goalkeeper saves and go, you know what, you've done badly there, because that isn't the case. Strangely, he's willing to go on loan but not to come to Leeds. It's a completely different thing, though, right? Because Solomon was looking for potentially Champions League football at Spurs. He's found Champions League football at Villarreal. He's going to be more than happy with that. Got a goal against Sevilla, got an assist against Osasuna. Hovering around that squad. Like, it's fine. It's not a problem. He'll have wanted minutes, and he'll get minutes. Also on the bench against Spurs, which is quite interesting. I didn't know you could do that in the Champions League. But apparently you can. I didn't know that Manor Solomon was younger than me. That's terrifying. Although on Saturday, I still don't know how DCL didn't score in the first minute when he was 1-on-1 with the goalie. Yeah, that was a not good one. But then again, forwards are going to miss those chances, you know. Premier League got to score, not championship teams were playing. Yeah, and we are scoring. We scored 5 times in the last 2 games. Like, I understand it's good for the forwards to score goals, but at the same time, it's good to not get too stressy when we're sharing the goals out, because we did still score twice against Bournemouth. That's not that bad. And I know that we like to sort of naturally lean into that sort of fear and worry, but we don't need to. Because at the moment, let's have a look. I've completely forgotten where we are in the league. I think it's 12th. There we go, 12th in the league. We've had one of the trickier starts of the majority of teams so far this season. We've faced Arsenal, who are currently 2nd. We've faced Bournemouth, who are currently 6th. Everton 9th. Fulham 11th. We've basically played We've played 4 teams that are above us in the league, and we've done reasonably well against the majority of those. We've lost to 2 of them. One of them was a very, very unfortunate headed on goal. In terms of the teams below us, we played Wolves, we beat Wolves. We played... Who the hell else did we play below us? I know we played 6. Newcastle, and we got a draw. Which, again, that's okay. That's all good. That happens. Although on Saturday, so, yeah, I've read that one. Forest losing again. Ex-Spurs manager. I don't know. Who are they against? Let's have a look. Midtjylland. That's not a good side to lose against, I wouldn't say. They've got some decent players, and I think a lot of people underrate the Conference League sides because Conference League. Like, a lot of people will see that they're in that competition and go, well, clearly they're not very good because otherwise they'd be in the Champions League. But that's not a bad team. Who else are the English sides playing against tonight? So Palace beat Kiev 2-0. And Villa are currently 0-0 against Feyenoord, which is quite interesting. Who is it that we were considering signing from Feyenoord that wasn't Pajot? I don't know. Can't remember. That's fine. If we weren't at who scores, could even be Jackie Boy. Indeed, like as long as the thing that I want from Jack Harrison is a sign that he wants to be a part of the club getting back to a more stable footing, and he seems to be doing that so far. Like, there is no sort of loss of effort or anything that we've been able to see so far. I don't mind, to be honest. Early game and it being before the international break, not looking good. What do you mean early game? What? It's after the international break that we're not particularly great. But then again, the early game could just be a case of championshipy issues. Like, because that tended to be we play midweek and then we play the early game. That turnaround is ridiculous, whereas this we've got a little bit of time to sort of keep training and play your way in and that kind of thing. We don't know how it is. Not too worried for us this season. We've shown we can live against established Prem teams. Next step, look for mid-table obscurity next season. Yeah, I think survival this season is the goal. Mid-table obscurity is the stretch goal. If we're able to manage that this season, then that's absolutely fantastic. That's perfect to me. But this season is about surviving. Let's be honest, next season is also probably about surviving because statistically, if you go up, 50% chance of going right back down again. If you stay up, even next season, you got a 50% chance. So 1 in 4 sides survive those first 2 seasons. And even after that, it's not necessarily going well. Gelhardt, Ramazani, Joseph, all on the subs bench now. Maybe Farke's right about these players. I think Ramazani's still half struggling with a knock, if I remember right. Gelhardt, I've not really seen much about Joffy. Let's have a look. In fact, rather than searching for Hull, why don't I just search Gelhardt? I don't think Gelhardt's on the bench. Joffy Gelhardt. Bench against Preston, but he started against Watford, Southampton, Swansea, and Bristol. So you never know. Could be a case of having a knock, and even then he didn't start, but he came on for 45 minutes. So, tell me secret weapon in one word. You're gonna hate this. Aaronson. Technically, and now you've got to go back and watch the start and be like, how does that work? There we go. Haha, I've clickbaited you. No, I've not. In reality, it's a case of we have the most shots created from pressing actions of any side in... Yeah, that'll do. We have the most shots created from pressing actions of any side in the league so far, which is something that a lot of teams will not expect from a team that's just been promoted, and I think that we can look to use that to our advantage because teams won't expect us to come out in that manner. One of the routes through which that pressing occurs is, sorry to say, Brendan Aaronson, because he does that quite well. He's a very pressy boy, as we may have realised by now. Is it imperative left wingers should be left-footed and right wingers right-footed? No, if anything, it's becoming the opposite. A lot of the time, you want a winger who can cut inside. With fullbacks tending to bomb on a little bit more, we tend to see fullbacks will always be also left-footed or right-footed, depending on their wing, which means that wingers have gone the other way, because you'll tend to have your fullback doing an overlap. Winger cuts inside to be the threat on the inside. They might take a shot, or they might use the overlapping run, and from the fullback you get the cross. That is increasingly becoming a little bit of a trend in football, and will probably remain a trend for a little while. Yeah, it's one of those things that I think will stick around, but I don't think it matters what foot a winger uses. It's ideal, I think, to have a left and a right-footed winger on both sides, so you've got options to change it up a little bit. What do you think of the surprise announcements on Saturday after your stream? Johnny Giles, Lucas Radaby. I think it was fine. In all honesty, I wanted to get a little bit sort of speculative during that stream. It was a case of, I've got legitimately no idea. I'm just going to throw some guesses into the wind. And if I land it, then I get to look like I'm real smart and I know what I'm talking about. But in that specific instance, I didn't. I was wrong. I did think there'd be something like tributey, but I was more leaning managerwards, to be honest. I don't know. Really impressed by Brendan this season. He leaves it all on the pitch. He does, yeah. And a lot of people are still sort of holding their existing biases around Aaronson. And I think those biases are gradually going to get proven to be a little bit off. Because it feels like someone that is putting in that level of effort and work, and every time that we seem to take him off the pitch, things go wrong and other teams get more chances. It's becoming a little bit of a trend. And it's a trend that I think is very notable. He does a lot of the defensive work in the opposing final third, and when we lose that, we lose a little bit of that sort of shape and structure. Like, he came off for Tanaka, and I don't know if Aaronson makes the same mistake to give away the free kick as Tanaka did. I think it was early games away. Leeds would... I wouldn't have said George Bush it. I think it was just early games, but I can't quite remember. Ailing Academy linked with Leeds too. That's good to see too. Always surprises me that we can pay these footballers millions and they can't use 2 feet. They often can. It's just if you prefer 1 foot, you're going to lean towards using that. Like, even if you are one of the best footballers in the world, you're going to have a foot that you prefer, and that's fine. Very, very few players are equally good on the left and the right foot. So I don't particularly mind having someone that has a preference. It's okay. Ampadu is also key to success. He is, yes. When the next Football Manager comes out, I'm planning on using their new tactics screen because it looks very, very interesting. Like, this is FM nerd stuff, but it looks sort of intriguing and gives us an idea of showing off tactics and how we can do it, to be honest. Because Ampadu's slotting into the back three makes it a lot more solid, and it means that both fullbacks just go, which is lovely. I think I'd figured Lucas already was an ambassador of some kind, to be honest. I think he was. He was definitely something. Like, I googled it before, and it was like, yeah, he's a global ambassador. So either they've reshaped what the club ambassadors are to be something a little bit different, or they're just sort of double announcing. I don't know. But I thought he already had that role, to be honest with you. I hadn't seen anything that said that he didn't. But whatever. It is what it is. If he is, he is. If he isn't, he isn't. Kicking a bag of wind, it's the hardest to do in the world. I mean, it might be. It depends on your wind, and it depends on your bag, and I don't know. As you can tell, I'm getting on the tired side, chaps. Is Radaby a resident of the UK again, or is he still full-time back in South Africa? I've got no idea. I can have a Google, but I'll be honest, I'm not particularly bothered. What's he do now? Club ambassador. Cool. That doesn't particularly help. Maybe both. I imagine he's got a home in both places. I don't know. You'll have to tell Joe how to say Radaby. I think he learnt the proper pronunciation, and I've just been saying Radaby from osmosis. Am I right in thinking that he goes Radaba? Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm going 1-1 or 2-2 Saturday. Calvert-Lewin first goal scorer again. In a stream I did with Joe earlier over on Big Up, I went a little bit more adventurous with my prediction, and I took a swing for the fences, and you know what? I might have missed. I probably did miss, but I missed in dramatic fashion. I've gone 2-0 Leeds. And it's not a prediction, it's a complete stab in the dark, it's complete optimism, it's complete vibes. But just imagine. Imagine if we can do that to them. Wow, it'd be wonderful. And everyone else is going to be like, Joe, you're insane. I'm going to give it a few seconds. I think you said 3-2. 3-2 to whom? That's the question. I don't know. Oh, also, Evie, I'm going to ping you a message in a minute for a thing. It's not an ominous thing, it's a fine thing, but it's a thing that I need to get sorted in the next couple of weeks. Hello, baby zebra games. Calvert-Lewin hat-trick floodgates open for him. Imagine, just, you know what? Sod it. Calvert-Lewin golden boot. Why not? One second. Bosh. Cool. Right, sent. That'll do. I know how Nanto's feeling calf injury isn't nice. Yeah, this is a very different form of calf injury, I'm fully aware, but it's a funny one, so I feel like it's the kind of funny injury that you tell the internet. 7-a-side one time, I was outfield for this week. I know, it's wild, sometimes I do that. And running full pelt. And then out of nowhere, calf just goes, no, and seizes up and cramps. Issue is, I'm halfway through a step at this point, and that foot's about to come down. So I got a calf that's seized up, like gone really, really tight, and then all of my pressure goes on that same foot, and it stretches it immediately, very forcefully. And you know that when you're going full cramp mode, the last thing you want is it to just go bang. Suddenly, your foot's gone the other direction. And I think that was one of the few times that I genuinely had a lay down and a little bit of a cry on the football pitch, because that was one of the worst experiences that I have ever felt. So that's fun. Icing on the cake if we beat Spurs, a loss will feel like all the hard work's undone. I don't think it will, to be honest with you. I think if we're at the stage in the season where, let's do a quick search, shall we? Premier League. There we go. If 7 matches in, we've gotten 8 points from an incredibly difficult start where we've played 3 teams that are in the Champions League. I don't think I'm going to be too mad at that. I think 8 points from the first 7 is decent. Rangers losing, Russell Martin will be sacked next week. Ooh, let's have a look. Paisha scored 2 for Marseille. I think that was last night, actually. And yeah, but then again, I don't know if it counts because Ajax are genuinely dreadful recently. Rangers are against Sturm Graz. Okay, that's maybe not good enough, to be honest. Oh, I will do my best. That was in response to Evie, by the way. Five-a-side injury for me. Me, 5'6", jumped on the guy's shoulders 6 foot to get up to head the ball and came down toe first into it. Ugh. No. No, I don't like that. That sounds unfun. Not for me. Not good. Well, I hope it's significantly better now, because that sounds like an absolute nightmare that nobody would particularly want to have to deal with. In terms of the starting lineup that I think we'll see this weekend as well, I'm just going to put this immediately out there, and I'm going to assume that the majority of people are going to agree. And pop a 1 in the chat if you do. It's going to be unchanged, right? Got to nip off, we'll finish this, and well, no problema. I shall see you shortly. But we're absolutely going unchanged, right? There's no way that first 11 is changing. I think the only change that you might make is maybe in midfield, but I think that midfield looked mostly very solid last time out, so it's quite hard to argue against that, maybe. Yeah, I'd go unchanged at the very least, but I'm not sure what you would do. But what I would do is I would say, if I can press the button right, make sure you like, you comment, and you subscribe, because if you're not subscribed, I'm going to be very, very, very sad. Thanks. I'm going to bring the stream to a close in a minute, by the way. Maybe Perry, and that's about it. I don't think so, because Perry isn't quite fit yet. Perry's going to be fit after the international break. Played on AstroTurf, mate fell on me, both jumped for the ball, fell back. Why is everyone getting serious injuries? I was talking about a fun one where I had cramp and then it got worse. And you're just like, yeah, actually, I had to go to therapy for mine. No. Stop being real injured. Why can't you just be fake injured? Yeah, Perry's in team training, but he's not being considered for selection. Also, of note, if you can, scan this QR code and vote the Leeds United View for the best Premier League podcast and best club content creator under the Premier League category. Which is important, because if we get shortlisted, then me and Jer and I think Paul and I think Stats and I think Jerry are potentially going to go to an awards meal, which is going to be nice, I think, depending. I don't know. I had a C-section surgery and ankle surgery for my... No! Anyway, I'm going to end the stream there, because I am. And I've got other bits and bobs to do this evening, so yeah. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please pop a like on the stream, subscribe if you haven't yet, even become a channel member. It's $2.99 for a month, and all my various channel members will be like, oh, it's great, you get videos early and everything, because I've taught them to say that very, very same thing. It's not a cult sometimes, and that's why you need to take the gamble, isn't it? Anyway, hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Ta-ra. It's not a cult. And to anyone that's a member of the cult, remember that we have a cult meeting that's coming up in 3 weeks' time. We will be sacrificing at least 3 small mammals and a giraffe. So if you could bring whichever you have been assigned, that would be appreciated. Toodaloo.